Good morning. Okay, as Michal mentioned, my name is Donna Llewellyn, and I have the honor of serving as the current Executive Director of the Institute for Inclusive and Transformative Scholarship here at Boise State. Some of the people in the room know whenever I say our name, which the acronym is IFITS, something else follows, so you'll learn it this week, so by the end of tomorrow, you'll also all know. It goes, I fits, you fits, we all fits. All right, thank you for humoring me. I also have the honor of chairing the committee that plans this event. So let me tell you a little bit about ICUR. So the Idaho Conference on Undergraduate Research. As you can see, it's a gathering of student researchers and their research mentors and other community members and family members from across the state for 2 days of professional development, research presentations, networking, and just celebrating the scholarly community in which we all live, thrive, and grow. This is the first time since 2019 that we are actually gathered back in person for ICUR. Okay, let's right? It's been a long time. Once again, we're able to gather, break bread together, talk to each other, without all the issues of technology, well, other than a little bit of technology, but no Zoom issues, hopefully. We are really grateful to all of those who have traveled from near and far. So let's see. If you are a University of Idaho student, faculty, or staff, or did research at the University of Idaho this past summer, stand up, scream, let us hear from you. Thank you. How about Idaho State? Student, faculty, staff, or did research at Idaho State over the summer? And not to leave out our local folks who had to travel across town. Boise State, student, faculty, staff, did research here this summer. As we heard when Michal was making small talk for me, a lot of the students who did research here over the summer are not studying for their degrees in Idaho, but they traveled to Idaho to do that research. So stand up if you traveled from someplace else into our beautiful state this summer. Thank you. And of course, welcome to anybody who's not a student, faculty, or staff. We're glad you're also joining us. And I know some of you will have family members and other friends visiting for the posters. So I'm going to ask that you attend the conference with a little bit of grace. At some point, something will go wrong. It always does. Anybody who does research knows something will go wrong. Hopefully not. It will get worse, but it will get better. But just go with the flow. Let anybody at the check-in table outside Simplot know if there's an issue that needs to be taken care of, please, and we will get it taken care of. Really, we just want to celebrate undergraduate research in the best mood possible. Okay, so before I go any further, I'd like to state that we at Boise State University honor the ancestral and contemporary sovereignty of the original Boise Valley people who have lived on this land since time immemorial, and thus we offer this land acknowledgement. Boise State University was established upon the ancestral homelands of the original Boise Valley people, the Nui, Shoshone, Numu, Paiute, and the Panakwate, Bannock people, whose descendants are citizens of the Shoshone-Bannock tribes of Fort Hall, the Shoshone-Paiute tribes of Duck Valley, Fort McDermott Paiute Shoshone tribe, and the Burns Paiute tribe, and the Confederate tribes of Warm Springs. As an institution of higher learning, we recognize the historical impact that federal policies have had on tribal peoples. We acknowledge the importance of strengthening tribal community engagement and offering rich and accurate historical and sociocultural education here at Boise State University. And I believe that's true at all of our state universities. Okay. Whoops. That was me. Okay. It is not just me, though. Putting on a conference like this takes the effort of many, many people. And something that I learned during the pandemic was the incredible importance of gratitude. And so hosting this conference for the first time in 5 years has required extra work, effort, and growth from a large group. And I really want to express my appreciation publicly to all members of the planning committee. And if you're on the planning committee and you're not on the screen, it's my fault, blame me. And also to everybody who has raised their hand. We have a bunch of volunteers. You saw it check-in and throughout the day of people helping to direct people and helping to make sure that you don't get lost. So please, a round of applause for our committee. I need to do a special call out to those in IFITS. I have the honor of working with the best team in the world. So you heard already from Michal Temkin-Martinez, who's our faculty associate. She's a professor of linguistics, but works with our Office of Undergraduate Research and stepped in this spring and summer to assist while our office was shorthanded, and we are very grateful. To Jim Fredrickson, who just joined us July 1st as our new deputy director, but has jumped in and learned that the line in job descriptions that says other duties as required, as assigned, includes driving carts, setting up easels, and just doing lots of setup work and moving. We say anybody who works in IFITS has to be able to move furniture. Nico Diaz, who unfortunately is ill today and cannot be here, but has helped greatly with the preparation. A special mention to Jocelyn Cullors. Those of you at check-in might have met Jocelyn. She will be there. She is the person who handles all the behind-the-scenes work with all the registration, all the poster assignments, answering emails at all hours because someone needs to do something or didn't do something, accepting late posters to the last minute, and doing just magic. And so Jocelyn is really amazing. We could not do this without Jocelyn. Lavanya Sitamraju for her work on the ICUR website, social media posts, making sure the rest of the world knows that ICUR is happening, and a myriad of other tasks related to the sessions that you'll be going to today and tomorrow. And finally, to the amazing Erica Bondi, who wrangles details better than anybody that I know, from session organization to signs to anything that we need, including running for groceries when we need them. And so I really thank you, IFITS. Can I have a round of applause for the amazing team? So a scope of the size of the event, we have 181 student posters this year with a total of 390 registered attendees as of yesterday, these numbers, because I did not update them this morning, from 35 different institutions, including 223 undergraduates, 89 faculty and staff, 25 high school students, 26 graduate students, and 27 family and friends of presenting students and other community members, industry, and government. Events cost money, it's a fact of life, and so here are our sponsors, and with a really special call out to HERC, the Higher Ed Research Council of the State Board of Education of Idaho, which those of you who traveled here from University of Idaho and Idaho State, HERC stepped up late in the game and offered us some extra funding to make sure that your dorm rooms were covered and that your buses were covered, and so the fact that you can eat, that you have a room to meet in, et cetera, is really thanks to HERC. All of the universities chip in either on the planning committee or other assistance, and so it really does take, it's a statewide effort, and we are very grateful. Students, you're on my list of gratitude, because without you, there would be no ICUR. Without undergraduate research, why have a celebration of undergraduate research? So thank you to the students. Congratulations on learning new ways of thinking, creating, connecting with your mentors, and finding new ways of being a scholar this past summer and year. And so can we have a round of applause for all our students? And my last thanks and heartfelt gratitude goes to all the research mentors. They will be mostly probably around in the poster sessions looking at the great research. But once again, we don't get undergraduate research without faculty and staff who are willing to help the undergraduates learn about research. These folks have made a difference in all of your students, of all of your lives, and Faculty often feel pretty overworked and overwhelmed. It's been a really hard year for faculty with everything going on in higher ed across the world, and so I really am grateful for the faculty who take the time to mentor our undergraduates. We can't overstate how important that is. Okay, a couple of tips. Some of you might have only attended virtual conferences before, so we used to have to give instructions of how to attend virtual conferences, but I feel like I should say a few words about attending an in-person conference. How many of you, this is your first in-person conference? Anybody? All right. Okay. Try to really attend. Same advice as for virtual. Turn off your phone when you're in sessions. We have breaks for you to check email and other things, but really attend. Ask questions, raise your hand, volunteer when we ask for volunteers, really take notes. In the breaks, besides checking email, talk to people, meet some new people. Don't only sit with the folks that you traveled here with. Meet some other people, talk to the speakers. There are a couple of large Post-its around where you can put answers to questions. Use those. At the closing session, we're going to pick a few answers, and if you're here, you'll get a silly prize. So use those Post-its. Okay. In the closing session also, after the closing session, let me talk about sessions. Good. There's today's session. Schedule, that's the word. Okay. All of the sessions are in this building. I know some of you were looking a little bit lost and confused about where the rooms are. One of the advantages of the main part of the sub is it's a circle. Just keep walking and you'll get to the room you're looking for, okay? So you almost never have to backtrack. So most of the sessions, the big sessions will be in here. Posters are in Simplot, which is straight down the hall. There's a couple of other breakout rooms which we will tell you about when it's time. But everything is in this building. Air conditioning helps. Okay. Another thing, at the end where it says Game Center, we have a special thing for anybody who's willing to venture out into the heat, is you can go over to the famous Boise State blue turf, throw around a football, and get your picture taken on the blue. So come down to the Game Center. There's pool and bowling and other things. There'll be pizza and other food, and then you can go over to the blue and get your picture taken and throw around a football and other things. Okay, I think that's everything that I need to say. And so without further ado, that's scheduled too. We do have a day tomorrow. We'll review that tomorrow. You don't need to think about tomorrow yet. One thing, let me say about poster sessions, just to make it clear. Some of the students know this. Half of the posters are today, the other half are tomorrow. The students who are presenting today, please take down your posters sometime before the closing session. Leave the binder clips, numbers, and everything else, because we need those for everybody who's presenting tomorrow. If you need to store it, so you can come down to the Game Center and other things, you can store it in Hatch. If you leave your poster behind by accident, you'll find it tomorrow in Hatch. Okay? Tomorrow morning, I'll say this again in the closing, but I'm going to say it multiple times. For anybody who's staying in the dorms, when you come here tomorrow morning, bright and early again, bring all your stuff, and you can store it in Hatch during the day so you can have it at the end of the day. Bring your keys. We're not checking out in the dorms because they're not there that early. And you're going to find the representative from your school. Chris, wave your hand, from U of I. Sonia, where's Sonia? In the back of the room, for ISU. And Erica from ISU. You'll find one of them to give your key and key card in the little brown envelope. I'll say that again at the end of the day. Okay. I think that now I am ready to welcome Dr. Nancy Glenn. Nancy, yay, Nancy. Nancy is both a professor in geosciences and our vice president for research and economic development, and I will say is a huge supporter of undergraduate research and of our office IFITS. And so it is with great pleasure that I introduce Nancy Glenn.
Good morning. I have to take a picture because this is so amazing, the view from up here. So just give me one second here. I have to do the pano. So this is an awesome turnout. So I'm actually here to welcome our speaker, but I wanted to say a few words about this conference and your attendance. First, thank you so much to the researchers that did all of the hard work and are still doing all of the hard work. I think we all know that research is not easy. I've been doing research for 25 years, and it's startling to me sometimes when I reflect on, I feel like I'm doing the same research that I was doing 25 years because I still haven't figured out the solutions to my research questions. So it's a long process, and it takes a lot of hard work and perseverance. And then coming and presenting also, as you know, is it's time consuming, it's a little bit stressful, it's a little bit intimidating. But I want to assure you that you're in a very friendly crowd. This conference every year is an amazing opportunity to be able to showcase your skills and your talents and be able to network. So I do hope that you can relax and enjoy and share the good fruits of your research and your research experience and take advantage of the networking opportunity that Donna shared. I also want to give a big shout out to the Institute for Inclusive and Transformative Scholarship, IFITS, for hosting this conference, and the Higher Ed Research Council, as well as Idaho State University and University of Idaho for all the hard work of putting this together. It's not easy, even though we're in one room together. There's many rooms, there's many different things that are happening behind the scenes to make the next 2 days happen, and actually everything up until these 2 days. So thank you very much to those teams. I'd also like to acknowledge that Eileen Barber, who is a member of our Higher Ed Research Council, is here. You can wave. We have industry. The Higher Ed Research Council, which is part of the State Board of Education, is a group of individuals, and Erin Searcy, our next speaker, was also on it, so I'll talk a little bit more about that, but a group of individuals from the universities, from industry, from the Idaho National Lab, that serve to better and provide opportunities for research around the state. And so the funding for this conference comes from that council, and the framework and the opportunities are really formed by that council and the ideas that they bring from across the state. So a big thanks to HERC. So I'd like to introduce our speaker. Dr. Erin Searcy is the Chief Technology Officer for Idaho National Lab's Nuclear Science and Technology Directorate. And in this role, Erin leads a variety of strategic and technology deployment activities, as well as engagements across INL with the Department of Energy, industry, and with universities. In 2024, Erin took a leave from her Chief Technology Officer role to act as INL's Acting Deputy Lab Director for Science and Technology and Chief Research Officer. And during this time, she served on HERC and also worked with the Vice Presidents for Research across the university. So I had the pleasure of getting to know Erin better through that role, and I'm so pleased to have been able to do so, because I think that after this talk, you'll understand what a special person she is. Prior to the CTO role, the Chief Technology Officer role, she served as the Director of Strategic Planning and Transformation for the Nuclear Science and Technology Directorate. From 2018 to 2021, Erin was the Director of Institutional Planning and Program, where she led INL's $37 million lab-directed research and development program, led the compilation of INL's lab plan and lab agenda, and oversaw research excellence activities. Prior to that role, Erin was the Bioenergy Technologies Department Manager, where she led a team of more than 30 researchers and scientists to address barriers to the efficient supply of quality, sustainable biomass feedstocks. She spent almost 3 years supporting the Bioenergy Technologies Office at Department of Energy headquarters in Washington, D.C., as a technical advisor employed by INL. Prior to joining INL, she acted as a sessional instructor in the Department of Mechanical Engineering at the University of Alberta, and was a consultant as well. She holds bachelor's, master's, and doctorate degrees in engineering. So Dr. Erin Searcy will be our speaker for this morning. Please welcome Dr. Erin fun fact, she is in a tournament, a tennis tournament for the rest of the week here in Boise. So wish her well after this.
Yes, I joked with Nancy this may be the last presentation I ever give because it's going to be 105 and I'm going to be running around for 2 hours this weekend. Okay, so I am delighted to be here back at Boise State University. I've been here many times to collaborate with professors here in a variety of fields, and we continue to work with them at Idaho National Lab, so it's great to be back, and it's great to hear so many of you coming from so many different places to participate in this. And I echo the comments, make the most of this. You know, when I was your age, like I'm 105 years old now, but you know, this was not a natural thing for me to participate in. To network was not something that ever came naturally to me, but this is such a good opportunity to get better at that. As Nancy said, this is a very friendly crowd, so I think it's wonderful that you're all here, and certainly make the most of it. So as Nancy mentioned, I'm the Chief Technology Officer in Nuclear Science and Technology at Idaho National Lab, which is the lead nuclear energy lab for the Department of Energy. And I'll say 20 years ago, if somebody had told me this is what I would be doing today, I would say, like, you are mistaken. I'm going to be a bioenergy researcher. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to save the world. I've always been passionate about mitigating climate change. But my career has taken so many different twists and turns, and so I wanted to share some of those with you today, just to maybe make you think a little bit about what you want to do in your life. And you know, I think it's easy at this stage when you're an undergraduate to have a plan, and a plan is always good, but to be agile and to look at the opportunities that come before you, because there's going to be things presented to you that you would have never thought of, and it doesn't mean because something isn't within your plan that it's not a good idea or it's not something that you should try. So I mentioned I started my career as a bioenergy researcher in Canada. I moved to the United States over 15 years ago. The two places in America I have lived are Idaho Falls, Idaho, and Washington, D.C., that I call the bookends of America. So at some point, I hope to try something in between. But yeah, I've done a variety of things, from being a consultant to being I taught at a university, and you know, that's what I thought I was going to do the rest of my life. But after trying it, I decided, you know, this really isn't something that's for me, and which led me to come to a national lab. And I worked in Washington, D.C. for a few years, and I did a variety of different things, including being in nuclear today. And I joke that I saw the blue light, which is what brought me to nuclear, but nobody ever laughs at that. I'm going to stop calling it a joke, and I'm going to stop saying it. So, but and I love working in nuclear energy because, again, it really aligns with my passion for mitigating climate change, and it's a whole 180 from being a bioenergy researcher. But it's, you know, working in the national lab system gives you the opportunity to experiment and try different things. And you know, if it didn't work out for me in nuclear, I could have tried something else. I would never have been stuck. So my first experience in research was as an undergrad, as yourselves. I did research in grain, understanding how ventilating grain impacts insect movement through grain to basically get rid of insects that have infested grain bins. Of course, that has nothing to do with anything I do today. I've never used the knowledge I gained from that, but I certainly used the skills. And one thing that was really important is to just be exposed to research early in my educational career, to understand that that's an option available to me. And of course, there's professors, I know they do research, but to actually try it for yourself is something important, as you know, as trying to work in industry or even at a national lab, and having these different experiences so you can make an informed decision about what you want to do. I myself, you know, being from Canada, going to the universities I went to, nuclear engineering never was an option presented to me, but it's something that I love to do, and it's something, you know, that I never considered. So being exposed to as many of these different options as you can early in your career, I think, is a really, really great thing to take advantage of. So getting back to my undergraduate research, which I don't use, the skills I learned I do use. For example, paying attention to detail, writing things down, documenting things, keeping good notes. Technical communication is a skill that a lot of people with doctorates don't have. It's something that, it's not something people are formally trained in, certainly, but it's a massive, massive skill. Being able to communicate technical work that you do to non-technical audiences and help them get excited about what you do and see how it's important, that is a real skill. And if you have an opportunity to learn how to do that better, take advantage of it, because it's something you'll use forever. Another skill that I learned, or at least started to learn as an undergraduate researcher, was project management, leveraging the resources available to you. So all of these are skills you start to develop working in research, even as an undergrad, even if the research itself is not something that you keep with for the rest of your career. So I wanted to talk a little bit about doing research at a national lab, which might be, has anybody here worked at a national lab? Let's get the audience involved. Oh, all right, we got a couple. Idaho National Lab? All right, okay, you can correct me if I get anything wrong here. So there's 17 United States Department of Energy national labs, and other branches of the government also have national lab types of things, but I'll focus on the Department of Energy. So some are multi-mission, which means they do more than just one thing. So Idaho National Lab is a multi-mission lab. Some are single-mission labs, like the Princeton Plasma Physics Lab, which focus on plasma physics. There's fundamental science versus applied labs. INL is an applied energy lab. There's national security / what we call the nuclear deterrence labs, or some may call the weapons labs, and there's more energy-focused lab. We're an energy lab. They range in size from a few hundred employees to more than 15,000. There's about 50,000 people in the national lab system employed by the national lab system, but they're all research focused and they're all have some sort of energy angle. One thing that's important about the national labs is that we can't compete with industry. It's a federally funded research institution, but we work with industry, academia, other national labs to do research for the public good. So INL is the lead nuclear energy lab. I mentioned we're a multi-mission lab, but our focus is nuclear energy. And so we're celebrating our 75th anniversary this year. In that time, we've demonstrated 52 reactors on our 890 square mile site. We're the geographically largest site. 4 of those reactors continue to operate today, including the Advanced Test Reactor, which is the world's preeminent materials test reactor. You can kind of think of it like a materials time machine. If you wanted to understand how a material or a fuel is going to behave in a nuclear environment, you might want to know that before building your reactor that's going to last 80 years. So rather than have to wait 20, 30 years to understand how this material is going to change as a result of being exposed to this environment, you can put it in the Advanced Test Reactor for 2 years and get that information so you can make an informed decision of how it will behave. So that's one of the capabilities we have. And then we also have what's called post-irradiation examination capabilities. So looking at those materials with different equipment to understand how the properties have changed at an atomistic scale, at an engineering scale. I've overheard some of you talking about being in material science, very material science focused. And material science is one of the areas that we collaborate with Boise State University on. So that's the nuclear side of the house, and we have tons of research in that space. That's about $1 billion annually of research, and the other $1 billion of our budget is in other research areas such as bioenergy, non-nuclear, batteries, again, another area we collaborate with Boise State on, hydrogen production, and then we have a national security side of the house. So we have interns that come and work in all these areas. Certainly we have undergraduate interns, although more of our graduate students interns at the lab. So getting back to what the difference is between doing research at a national lab versus other places, national labs all have some mission that they're working towards. So everybody, in some way, their research ties to a common mission. Whereas I think at a lot of universities, at least, there's a lot broader spectrum of types of research that researchers do, and you certainly have research groups, but everybody isn't working towards one common research goal, at least at most universities. So another benefit one of the benefits of working at a national lab is that you're not really applying for grants in a traditional sense. Some national lab employees do have to apply for grants, but a lot of us have sustained research funding that we get from the Department of Energy. So as opposed to just kind of having a blue sky, we can apply for whatever type of funding, whatever type of project we want. We do get some general guidance from the Department of Energy in terms of what are the research challenges we're looking to address, and then we develop research projects that align and meet those challenges. So they're generally longer-term research projects. We're generally not regularly applying for grants, but we do need to align our research with the mission that we're supporting within the Department of Energy. And of course, like I mentioned, we get to collaborate with a lot of different institutions, universities, industry, other national labs, which is exciting. It's always exciting to bring in different perspectives and talk to different people. All right, so this is where it really goes downhill. So, once you hit the age of like 40, 45, if somebody puts you in front of a microphone and there's people younger than you, you have to give advice. It's like, you just feel it within your soul, like you have to start imparting advice. So I'll say the best advice I think I've ever gotten in my life is be careful who you take advice from. because I think so don't stop listening. There's good stuff within what I'm about to say, but I think there's a lot of very well-meaning people who are trying to help, but they give advice that isn't necessarily right for you. Everybody's different, right? We all know this. So one that I commonly hear is, you can achieve everything, anything you put your mind to, you can achieve. And I think that's a well-meaning piece of advice, but not everything is about effort, right? There's different things that come into play beyond just the amount of effort you put in. Of course, like I'm 100% effort in everything I do. I try very hard. You consider myself a very hard worker, but there's a lot of things that I've tried to achieve that I've failed at, and it's not for lack of effort. So I think, don't be so hard on yourself. There's a lot of things that come into play in achieving great things, and it certainly means you should try, but it's okay if you don't achieve the goal that you set out to achieve. There's a lot of paths to success, and I'll talk about a couple of mine that I've witnessed. I think too, I've had a lot of people gear me towards different types of roles, like leadership roles. The deputy lab director role that Dr. Lynn mentioned that I was acting in, it was a fantastic opportunity, but it's one that puts you in front of audiences all the time, and you're put on panels where you're talking about things that are outside your expertise. And for someone like me who's extremely introverted, it's a very uncomfortable position to always be in. And so although it's a great leadership opportunity and people say, you should stretch yourself, and I totally agree that's true, but there's also, think about who you are as a person and find opportunities that will allow you to thrive within who you are truly as a person. So that's a bit of advice. I think too, having the ability to filter input that people give you is really important. I think it's really important to get a diversity of perspectives from people, not only with respect to career advice or things related to what you're doing, but just professionally get professional input on things, but having the confidence to make the decision that you think is right. And there's been many times I made decisions that most people told me I should do something else, but if I felt it's the right thing, I had the confidence to do what I think was the right thing to do. So another thing I wanted to briefly share is, just a bit about my career path. So I've already had this kind of, it started as a bioenergy researcher, and now I'm in nuclear, and that's a very unusual path to take. That's not common that people stray so far from their core technical area. But I'll say I started off to be a veterinarian of all things, and clearly I have failed in that sense. And one thing I learned from that, and the reason I didn't go down that path is that, it didn't occur to me, and maybe it should have, that when you're a veterinarian, you're not always interfacing with pets, you're interfacing with owners, right? Like the dog doesn't talk, so it's a constant relationship that you have with the owner, far less than the pet itself. And so long story short, that wasn't a path for me. But now in my current life, one of the things that me and my spouse do is we rescue pets that are difficult to place or have some sort of special need. My house isn't as disgusting as you might think it is. We keep it under control, but they're all a mess. But it's been a way for me to give back in the sense that I hoped to give back as a veterinarian. And so, I'll share this as an example of finding another path to do something you really want to do, even if your original thought didn't work out. And, another example of what you might, could think of as me failing or not succeeding in what I set out to do is I was going to be a professor. That's the reason I went to do the PhD in the first place. And, I had so many professors throughout my research career that inspired me and helped me and supported me, and I'd never be where I am today if it wasn't for them. So thanks to all the professors that are here today for everything that you do. But that's another thing that when I actually saw the reality of how the job worked in terms of, getting in front of an audience and, again, being a very shy, introverted person, that was going to be a very hard path for me to go down. And being someone who's very passionate about mentoring and, again, helping others be successful, is I found another path to that working in the national lab system. There's always opportunities to help others be successful and lift them up, even if it isn't the path that I originally envisioned that to be. And yes, I mentioned, the other one is the bioenergy researcher. This is, again, something that I tried, and being aligned with my passion for mitigating climate change, I really wanted to make a difference in the world, and I thought bioenergy research would be a great way to do it. And bioenergy is a really exciting career, but after doing that for over 10 years, I wanted to try something different. And the more I learned about nuclear energy, something I hadn't been exposed to before I got to Idaho National Lab, the more I wanted to be part of that. And so I put an enormous amount of effort in reading textbooks, learning from researchers that worked at the lab, taking courses, to be in a position that I can help be an effective leader in the nuclear space. So I think it would be easy to look at my, you could still choose to do so, but to look at my career as a series of kind of like missteps or failures or things that didn't work out. But all of those brought me to where I am today, including my early career start as a bioenergy or as a grain researcher. So, I hope you look at all the opportunities before you and think of all the different things that are available to you to try, and if they don't work out, you can always try something different, and because you'll have a solid foundation in education, you never have to feel like you're stuck, and there's always something new that you can try, even if it's something that you never thought you would have in the first place. So, with that, I thought I'd leave a bit of time for questions if you have any, and if not, that's okay too. Thank you. One at a time. Okay, we got one.
You mentioned that you went into nuclear. What made you change? Like, what was the biggest factor for you?
Pardon me?
What made you change from, if I remember right, it was bioenergy?
Yes, from bioenergy to nuclear.
Yeah, what was the biggest factor for you for wanting to change?
Yeah, so first of all, we're the lead nuclear energy lab, so there's a huge amount of things that we do in the nuclear space within Idaho National Lab. And the bioenergy program is certainly smaller. Not to say I couldn't have gone somewhere else to do something in bioenergy, but nuclear wasn't ever even something that I had thought of doing. And because I always wanted to make an impact in terms of mitigating climate change, the more I learned about nuclear and the impact it can have in reducing carbon emissions, that's truly what made me want to be part of that, because I feel like I'm part of the solution. I feel like I'm part of something important. And so it was also really exciting to me to be able to learn about a new technical space. And, that's scary. You could argue I was walking away from a decade of experience, a solid publication record and everything in bioenergy. But it was also really exciting to have this opportunity in a lab and an environment that supports me to learn about something new. And I wanted to take advantage of it. And like I was saying, if it didn't work out, if it didn't work out for whatever reason, I could always go back to doing something in bioenergy. Nothing's like that door isn't shut just because I wanted to try something different.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, we got another one.
Hi. So I wanted to ask you to go over a bit more on how you kind of facilitated the change from bioenergy to nuclear. Like, I know you said that you took classes and read textbooks, and believe me, I get reading textbooks. Oh my gosh. But
yeah, it's not cool. It's not cool. Yeah.
A lot of tears have been. But I really wanted to ask how you really kept that door open, or how you opened it in the first place. Did you network? Did you know someone? Did you just apply to Indeed? How did you facilitate that change?
Yeah, I'll say too, one thing I didn't mention is don't underestimate the value of being somebody that gets stuff done. Like, I have built a career on being the reliable person you can give stuff to and I'll get stuff done. And having a basis of skills, and that's what I was, kind of alluding to in the skills associated with being an undergraduate researcher, having that basis of skills you can offer somebody. The technical leap is actually not as big of a case to make to people as you think it might be. And, especially when you get into research where, as you get further in your career, you tend to broaden, but most researchers have a pretty narrow band of what they have expertise in the bigger span of things, but they all have some skill sets that they can offer something else. So that was kind of my approach, is to use those skill sets I had built and the reputation I had built in a different technical area, and work with somebody who believed in me and who trusted me to put the effort in, and somebody I knew would be supportive of me taking this leap. And so we kind of worked together to find that path. But, I'll say I have a phenomenal boss. His name is Jess Jean. He's at INL. If you find a boss who's supportive of you and great to work for, latch on to that. Because it's, you're in so much better a position to be successful if you have people that are supporting you, especially if they are in leadership positions above you. So I had, the history, I had the support, and I had the will to make it happen. I'm also a very determined person, so
Thank you very much.
Yeah. All right, okay, we got another one over here. Oh.
Hello? Perfect. You mentioned that a lot of your projects are like longer term or really spread out. What do you do when things are going slow or you don't get results that you're hoping for in such long experiments to keep your energy and motivation up to continue working on it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. That's a really good question. And so part of what we can do is work on a couple different projects. And, if one's a little slower and yeah, some of it you just have to slog through it, maybe you can have something else that you can use to augment it. Keeping focused on the goal of the project, I think, is helpful and motivating. I mentioned that national labs are all working towards a common mission. I think that's actually pretty effective in helping motivate people to continue to work through maybe some of the more difficult things, just to understand that this is an important piece of a bigger puzzle that we need to do. But I mentioned the advanced test reactor. It can take a couple years to get an experiment in the advanced test reactor. And so you can have some significant downtimes in research, but keeping focused on the importance of what you're doing and how it's going to contribute to something bigger, I think helps to keep it going. But good question.
Thank you.
So I think as researchers, we are definitely creating new pathways to information. So what would you say are some of the most beneficial resources you have found to help you create those new pathways, whether that's in academia or, like government support coalitions or whatever that is? What are some of those resources?
Yeah, we get a lot of our funding from the Department of Energy, and just keeping the dialogue open in terms of what the opportunities are and what the white space is. I think sometimes you can get very fixated on a particular goal, and things change as you're working towards that goal, and making sure that they're aware of how the environment has changed and what the new opportunities are. In terms of just enabling innovation in general, I think it's really important to build diverse teams to make sure that you have a variety of perspectives that are being shared and that you change people out in those teams over time so you don't get into a groupthink mentality. And then that, as those innovative ideas come forward, to make sure that you're sharing them with your sponsor, in our case, the Department of Energy. Different, depending where you're doing your research, you might have more just open solicitations that you can participate in and throw the idea out there. But the more you can develop a relationship with a particular sponsor and help them understand what type of research that you do and the type of gaps you can fill, I think that's a pretty effective way in building these longer-term research relationships so that they're always aware of what your capabilities are and you're not going to miss out on something.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Hi. I was curious, what's the coolest reaction machine science experiment that you're legally allowed to tell us about?
Okay. Yeah. So, if you're recording this, don't record this part. So there's something called the National Ignition Facility at Lawrence Livermore National Lab. It's not at Idaho National Lab, okay? So I'm just admitting that right now. The Advanced Test Reactor is very cool. We have lots of cool facilities. But who here has watched the show Animaniacs? All right. Okay. So this is something like Binky and the Brain came up with, because it's got, you can go in there and look at the public pictures of it, but I don't know how to. This is going to be a bad description, so you'll have to Google it. But it's called the National Ignition Facility, and it's like this big metal sphere with all these lasers that are focusing in on like a tiny pinhead points. And you probably heard this big fusion announcement that came out of the Department of Energy about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, that we finally sustained fusion ignition, and it was a huge, huge deal. Like, we finally yielded energy from fusion. That's a fission joke because we're a fission lab for Idaho National Lab. No laughs. Okay, that's okay. But anyways, it's such an insane thing, and like hundreds of lasers coming together to one point to cause fusion. It's primarily used for what we call stockpile stewardship, but it's like, I'm just gonna stop talking because I'm not adding anything at this point. But it's insane. It's insane.
That sounds awesome. Thank you.
Like the worst, you remember technical communications that I looped back about earlier? Like, it's insane, you guys. Yeah, sorry, that wasn't very good, but yeah.
Hi, I'm Julia Palmer. I'm from the University of Idaho, and I was just curious to hear about like what your day-to-day work life looks like in this role compared to other roles that you've had in the past, and kind of the pros and cons of that as somebody that has such a diverse professional experience.
That's a really good question. And, I think when you think about what you want to do, thinking exactly about what you're saying of like, what do you do on a daily basis? There's kind of like the concept, I was a veterinarian, I'd be helping animals, and but like, what are you actually doing on a day-to-day basis? And so I admit, a lot of presentations, and I go to a lot of conferences. We talked about networking. I think I'm a horrific networker. I think I've gotten better at it, but I do a lot of stuff like that. But a lot of what I do is, I need to think of a better way to say this, so it's, but like just like I'm kind of like a problem solver. If, there's people that are coming into challenges in projects or I do a lot of relationship management, working with the Department of Energy, working with industry, advanced reactor developers, working with universities, and helping them identify how we can help them be successful. Like one thing I do is, talk to advanced reactor developers if they have a particular technical challenge that they're trying to address, how we can leverage our national lab facilities to help them be successful. Because that's our objective at the end of the day, is to rise everybody up together, right? As a national lab, we're doing research for the public good. So, helping external people access our facilities, connecting them to the right people, helping people work internally through issues that they're having. But then there's the other side of it where I'm, attending conferences, presenting, I'm on panels and things like that. Versus as a researcher, a lot of research work is in a small group or individual, and that's, depending on what type of research that you do, but it's not uncommon for researchers to work pretty independently a lot of the time and then come together to talk about their results with a group or a small group. So when I was a researcher, I did a lot of analysis and did work independently a lot of the time. I pretty much never interacted with customers or did any sort of relationship management until I got later in my career. And then, so yeah, all these different things, the day-to-day life was actually very, very different. And so I'm really appreciative that I'm in a job now where I can, do the things I like to do and I think that I'm effective at and that I'm good at and I enjoy. And then there's other things that are more developmental opportunities for me that maybe isn't something I think I'm as good at, or, I can certainly learn to be better at. And so I have a good mix of that now. Yep. All right. Looks like it. Okay. Well, thanks, everybody. I appreciate you listening.
One more round of applause for Dr. Erin Searcy, please.